Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Paul from Refocus Coaching, and I work with dads on helping them improve their energy and focus and improve their health, whilst also reducing a bit of excess body fat in a sustainable way. And I like to talk to other dads on these discussions about how they manage their nutrition and energy and focus and so on. And today I'm joined by Michael, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Michael. I'm the Director of Questions at Make Your Habits, and I'm a productivity coach. So I'm a certified coach in the real world, and I am obsessed with the world of getting things done in a very efficient, productive way. So I like the way Paul thinks, and I have balanced my world of being really productive at work, but also keeping myself fit and ready to go for the family when needed.
Fab, thank you. And yeah, you're a perfect guest because you are high energy, and you've done some work on, preserving that health and that mindset so that you can cope with everything. So yeah, perfect guest to come on and have a chat with. So that's what I talk to people about, is about, you're spinning lots of plates, maybe more plates than people really know. And it's to sort of understand really from you, maybe some tips and ideas, or maybe talk through some things that you've perhaps struggled with in the past in terms of your health or your energy, and things that you've maybe deliberately worked on. So is there anything that kind of pops out for you, or something that you would like to kind of start off with?
I think what I'm going to say is everything I'm going to talk about today has come from probably a 10-year journey. So, because 10 years ago I was burning out and really struggling to find a balance. Like there were some telltale signs at work; it wasn't quite right, and I wasn't the person I am now. And it's actually been quite a long journey to learn a lot of lessons and try things and reuse them and bring out things when they're needed as well. So I don't do all of it all of the time. I do it when it's needed, because trying to do everything in the perfect healthy world just isn't sustainable. So it's actually what matters and what makes me fresh. So I could tell you where it all began, or I could tell you where I am. Where would you like me to start?
Let's start with where you were, yeah, and how you maybe started to change things.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so it starts with all terrible stories. I was working at the best employer in the UK, and I was burning out. So they were winning awards for brilliant workplace, but I was working in a way that wasn't actually sustainable and didn't fit who I needed to be at the time. So I'm a raving dyslexic, which means I often solve things just by working longer and harder than most other people. So to write stuff, to get things done at work, just stay a bit later, do a bit more concentrating. And I ended up going from an assistant manager at a soft play centre, which is quite a hands-on physical job, which you can bounce your way through, to a customer service manager in a contact centre for a social landlord. And it was a complete change. So the demographic of what I was managing changed. I went from managing 18-year-olds to middle-aged people. So there's a difference in how you work with those. Yeah. I was desk-based, I was going through a pair of shoes a month at the soft play centre to sitting down most of the day. And yeah, it was unsustainable what I was trying to do. So I was first in, last out, and it was a high performance place. We were winning awards, but it was done through burning myself out. So first in, last out, working through lunch, and just genuinely running myself down to the detriment of my performance at work. So I knew there had to be changes. So that was the sort of that moment of like, yeah, this isn't sustainable.
How long did it take before you kind of realized what was happening, do you think?
I think there was about 9 months of the pressure ramping up. So there was quite some crazy targets, like answer the phone in 15 seconds, things like that. And when people go sick, if you're the manager, you pick the phone up to pick up that slack, but then you've got to do the one-to-ones. You've got to do the reports for the directors. You've got to do the insight. You've also got to make it all better. Yeah. So if you do 7 hours of answering the phone, there's still 7 hours of your other job to do. And how do you do that? Yeah. So it all came about was someone called Michael Heppel. He is like a business coach. He talks about being brilliant, things like that. And it came from, he came and he said, right, I want you to do a challenge of when someone says, "How are you feeling?" Say brilliant, because actually at that time, when someone goes, "How are you feeling, Mike?" I was like, I feel crap. I like my team are against me. The world's rubbish. Like the self-talk I had was terrible. Like out and out, it was not good. And I think people actually stopped talking to me because of it. Because they go, "How you doing, Mike?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah." All that negative stuff just whoosh.
Yeah.
And the challenge he came with was when anyone says, "How are you doing?" say you're brilliant.
Yeah.
Or words to that extent. So for 21 days, it would say, "Mike, how are you doing?" I go, "I'm brilliant. I'm amazing. I'm great." And that one habit change was the catalyst for me to start to take back control of what was going on mentally, but also how I felt in the day. But more importantly, how other people were getting to see me. So what I was sharing with what my emotion. And that really was the catalyst. And from that moment, I mentally started to take more control over things subconsciously. And like having done some work afterwards, I can look back and see what happened. But actually, that one reframe in my head of changing one word at one point from one question was just a mind-blowing game changer.
Yeah, that's quite a fascinating piece of work, isn't it? Because it is literally just words coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
But I guess your thought process and your intent on saying those positive words, it must have an effect inside of how you think, I guess, and how you act.
Yeah, because like our brains, like there's some science on it, our brains can't differentiate between what's the self-talk and what's other people talking to you. So if you're permanently got that inner dialogue going on, and the narrative going, "Oh, you're rubbish, you're not good," and that's what would happen. So you might be having a good day and then have a crap conversation with someone, and someone go, "Hey, Mike, how you doing?" "Oh, it's crap, it's terrible." Now, what are you cementing? Are you cementing your good day, or are you cementing that one moment where something's happened and you're just like, so which of those becomes true and perpetually true?
Well, and that could set you off to have an entirely bad day as well, couldn't it? Whereas you could have turned it around potentially. So yeah, wow, yeah, that's powerful. I can see how that works a lot in terms of the work I do with people as well. So in terms of energy levels are low, getting home from work, haven't got energy to do stuff with the kids or to make dinner or to have even a chat with your partner. I can see how that self-talk can carry on as well, and that narrative can carry on, through your whole of your life almost.
Yeah. Well, that you get home to your partner, right? So even if you can split the day between work and home, your partner says, "How was your day today?" and you go, "It was crap." Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
What have you done to that mood at home? Like, what mode is your partner in? Is your partner in, "Actually, I want to try and lift you up," or do they want to try and just leave you to it to decompress? Or is there, does it make sense? It's that from one to another.
Well, and you could crush their day as well, potentially, couldn't you? Because they're obviously invested in you and care about you as well. And I mean, it's fascinating. I some of the things I talk about with my clients is about communication with your key people, because that's really critical to getting anything right, I think. And we sort of take it for granted. We take each other for granted a little bit, don't we? You've been with your partner potentially for years. There's niggles and things that annoy each other about one another, but they're your crutch. You rely on each other. And so, I think that communication is really critical, because you could come home and say, "Do you know what? I've had a really pig of a day, but give me 5 minutes and let me turn it around. I don't need a pep talk yet." And you could kind of be open with it, couldn't you? And set the tone.
Yeah, well, that's it. You knowing what to do, right? So when something happens, what do you do with it? And that's a lot of work I do with people, is when you get triggered by something, like taking more work on, or you go off to go eat something for comfort. This is why I use the frame of habits, and I occasionally get accused of being a bit too broad with it. But I think if you can think of everything you do as there is a trigger and then you respond. Once you understand, I've been triggered, now change my response, and then you get a different reward. That is a really powerful bit of process to know that you can then start playing around with. And that's a lot of the personal work I do. So there's a lot of unplanned sugar that happens for me when I'm stressed. So I often look at my unplanned sugar trigger.
Yeah.
So why am I eating all this chocolate? And I was like, oh.
Well, that's exactly, it's the same thing that you're saying though, isn't it? So you can apply that same logic and that same kind of process around your habits around food as well.
Yeah.
Arguably, sometimes it's harder to catch yourself in the moment and to have that moment of clarity to think what's the trigger here, what's going on, what can I do differently. But that's basically, yeah, I mean, that's kind of forms how we go through our day, doesn't it? Is those little habits where and especially ones that sort of stack on top of each other. Because if there's a couple of negative ones, it can just take you off, and spoil, a potentially good moment. Yeah, wow, fascinating. So you obviously kind of started to put that process in place. Yeah. Was there then a period of time where you continue to work on yourself and started to grow and do other things around that?
I was really lucky because this company I worked for 2 years, they did this thing called Great Place to Think, and they had proper, really good high-end speakers come in every month and talk to the leadership team. So from that moment of the reframing the world of brilliant, literally every month there was someone else coming giving me another lesson. Yeah. So like another couple of months later, there was a nutritionist came in and said, right, high protein breakfasts are better for your brain than a cereal-based breakfast.
Yeah.
So the way my mind works is like, okay, let's make this happen. So like moving onto eggs and things like that, and protein shakes, because they're a good way to get a good hit of protein. So I changed that up. So almost every month I would change something in my outlook as a leader to better manage myself and become more productive, more effective, happier. It's really strange, pivotal moment, because I could have burnt out, and I could have been out in a couple of months if I hadn't made that change. But instead, I had another couple of years of just being immersed in a culture of people that wanted to be better and wanted to be good. And I think that's a really important thing to understand as well. I was among other people who wanted to be good as well, and it was
that makes a difference, doesn't it? If you've got the surroundings or the environment and the people environment that are going to actually help promote that kind of thing, because otherwise you can get stuck. So you could have gone off sick and then you'd have come back in and gone straight back into type again. And probably ended up, burning out anyway again.
Yeah, and that's it. And I, at that point in my life, I really didn't drink. I was previously a holiday rep / rugby player, so I think I probably did what most people drink in their life up to about the age of 25. If I'm going to be honest. But one of the things that probably helped me and saved me was drinking wasn't a mechanism to cope. It wasn't an option because it had been just wasn't something I did anymore, and I'd worked my way out of that. And maybe for me as well, so not having that I'm just going to go get drunk, get past this, that wasn't an option. So it made me have to go off and do other work. Yeah.
That was probably a bit of a saving grace, because it is something that a lot of people will go and rely on. I did it myself in my worst days, and it's quite typical, isn't it? You hear a lot of people say, on a Friday, I'm going to crack open a bottle of wine to unwind or to switch off or to whatever it is, take my mind off the terrible week that I've had at work. And as we know, alcohol doesn't really help in the long run. You get a much poorer quality sleep, your heart rate's increased, your decision making's altered, the way you speak to your loved ones and people around you is altered. Generally it's a negative experience to use that in that way anyway. So you did well to kind of not fall into that type during that period as well. So I'm kind of interested to ask, so I work with my clients on kind of 4 main pillars. So that being nutrition, which we've kind of touched on a little bit there, about movement and how much, exercise, walking, and just generally moving around versus, sedentary kind of lifestyle, on sleep, and then on mindset. So I'm kind of interested in terms of the sleep one with you. Do you feel like that was impacted in any way during that period as well? Have you done any work on that area?
So there's sort of bits and bobs I've done. So my mind's quite a busy mind. I bet it's a funny one. It can be busy thinking about things that don't matter, and I can fall asleep. So a good example is I listen to I have tinnitus.
Yeah.
So I listen to things to go to sleep because there's always a bit of ringing in my ears. But if I listen to business podcasts, it turns my mind on, and my mind will get pulled down it. But I will listen to other things, like still things that interest me, but that don't hold my attention. So American politics is a bit of a guilty pleasure at the moment, listening to what is going on there.
Yeah.
But also just sports things, anything like that. So anything that allows my brain to switch off. It's funny. Once I start listening, I can be asleep in a couple of minutes, but I could put a business podcast in and be laying there wide awake because it's hitting the areas my brain's like, this is amazing. So it's about finding the things that allow my brain to just shut off and go to sleep. So that's something I've always done as a way to get to sleep.
Yeah. Do you do that? So yes, you do that. You plug something in as your head's on the pillow, kind of.
Yeah, and then put a timer on it so it's not running all night, because that's not much better because there's something still going on. Put on about half an hour and then it's off. But I'd say the biggest win I've got is a couple of years ago I read the book Breathe. Don't know if you've read it. So
no, but I've heard of it. It's on my list of books I should probably get.
Yeah, it's really interesting because he goes into lots of niche theories about what breathing can do for you, and you can go take what you want from it. But one of the things I did do was I tried to solely nose breathe because he talks about how it is better for you. Going off on a tiny, completely uneducated recap of the book, he talks about how nose breathing, you do 6 breaths a minute, so 1 every 10 seconds, but actually increases your carbon dioxide, which then helps you sleep. And there are a couple of things in there about nose breathing at night. Is if you mouth breathe, it gives you a different chemical, and that chemical is the chemical that makes you go to the toilet. And then if you wake up in the night, it produces more of that chemical. So like I say, completely uneducated recap of the book, but effectively, the more you mouth breathe, the more you go to the toilet at night. The more you go to the toilet at night, the more you create the chemical that makes you go to the toilet in the night.
Yeah. So you can get caught in a pretty vicious cycle there, can't you?
Yeah, and actually, I've got hay fever as well. So in the summer, my nose often gets blocked, and I default to mouth breathing, and I get up more. Whereas in the winter, I nose breathe, and actually part of that comes through having to do it in the day to default your breathing to your nose rather than the mouth breathing.
Yeah,
but
that's fascinating.
If I say one thing I have done that has helped me is nose breathing, but also doing it like exercising. So running a 5K on nose breathing is quite a hard challenge at the start.
Yeah,
you say there's a lot of clearing your nose in the run. But at the end, you don't need a drink and you're not out of breath. I wholeheartedly, if you want to mix up some of your exercising, encourage you to try it and stick with it for a couple of months and just see what it does. It blew my mind. But I was running 5Ks on nose breathing, finish, not out of breath and not needing a drink. It was bizarre, but brilliant.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've played around a bit with some breath work. From trying kind of Wim Hof's, 30 breaths and then almost passing out, a sort of out of body experience kind of style, to just, nose breathing when exercising, or in between sets, if I'm lifting, I'll sit and I'll just breathe and concentrate on it and do sort of box breathing or something like that and get really good quality deep breaths in. And it definitely makes a big difference in terms of my engagement in the activity, but also my output for that activity. I've never tried it running. I mean, a run, to be honest, is a struggle at the best times anyway for me. So, but yeah, certainly interested in learning about that a little bit more. That's fascinating. Yeah, and so around your sleep routine then. So are you clockwork? Are you kind of same every night? Wake up the same every day?
So pretty much, sleep in bed by about 10, listening to something, and I'll be off by 10 past 10.
Yeah.
And then I'm in the 5:30 club at the moment. I'm just a bit time poor. So I get up, and I've recently changed this, got told off by the physio because I was going straight into a HIIT workout at 5:30. And so I now go for a quick walk around the block to activate the leg muscles and all that stuff. And then I'll do a half an hour HIIT and then I'll have had breakfast. So by about 6:45, I've done my workout, be at about 4,500 steps, have my breakfast, and then I become the responsible adult for the school run. So, and that's all about getting the school run in. So the only reason I get up at 5:30 is because my son gets up about 6ish, which doesn't actually leave any room for that personal process. So I get up early because he gets up early too.
Yeah. That's what you've got to do, isn't it? You've got to find what works for you so that you can fit that into your day. A lot of people don't like working out in the morning, and so they have to try and find another space for it somewhere in the day. But if you can't, if your work type is such that you can't take a lunch break or you can't finish early, then sometimes it's got to be that early morning choice, hasn't it?
Well, I'm working from home, so there's no commute, so so I could quite easily get up, have breakfast, sit down. So part of it is actually consciously putting some activity before work.
Yes.
And so it really is for me, it's what I have, the day I have in front of me, finding what the optimal process is. So when I was office based, I would go do a lunchtime workout and have a lunch that I could eat on the way back from the gym to the office. So actually walk out, hit the gym, do a workout that was efficient enough to get me back within the hour. So you can't go and do a slow jog on a treadmill. It's go pick something heavy and lift it for half an hour at speed. Right. So that's always
you're compromising on you're compromising on both the workout and the lunch, aren't you? The quality of both, really.
Yeah, but it was the time I had, so there was no point begrudging it.
Yeah.
So actually, what's my opportunity? Go put the headphones in, and I was lucky. The gym was 50 meters around the corner from the office. Yeah. So I couldn't have been more efficient. Because again, if you're commuting, you lose 2 hours a day if you're going in and out of London.
Yeah.
Eat easily. So that's in my productivity world, but that's where I listen to consume the business stuff, actually on the commutes.
Yeah.
But it's that what is the balance that works for me? And it's finding the right. I use Joe Wicks currently, the app.
Yeah.
Really good, really consumable. It works for me. But I also know there are other people that need someone physically present there for them, or a higher touch, which I think is great. If that's what works for you, do it. But for me at the moment, with my tight time, it allows me to do my workouts and my food as well without really thinking about it.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. Just going back to that point about your non-commute movement, because I do exactly the same thing. I work from home. Sometimes I'm on a gym floor. That's not the main part of my job, but I do go and do some work on a gym floor, which is fine. But otherwise, I will go and have a commute. So I'll walk, no matter what the weather. I will go and have a 15-minute walk every morning before I sit at my desk, as if I am, going to the office, or try and find a way to extend, do the school drop off and do an extended walk after that or something like that. Because I think it's really important, and not just for your body, but for your mind as well. There's an opportunity to either just zone out and listen to a podcast or listen to some music or something, or you can unravel a few thoughts and maybe get prepped for your day and do a bit of work on yourself during that time. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. That walking time, because I'm a 10,000 stepper as well, so I will aim to get 10,000 steps. And I've got routes. I know if I've got 15 minutes a route I can take, if I know I've got 10 minutes a route I can take, rather than sit and doom scroll, I'll get up, go for a walk. And again, that's a conscious, right, I've got 10 minutes. What do I think to myself, what do I need? Do I need to re-energize myself? Do I need a walk? Do I need a snack maybe? And even those are planned. I know what my snacks, my choices are, rather than walking to the cupboard and going, I need to eat something, and then grabbing a high sugar or pack of crisps or something, because I know that's not actually good for me, because 10 minutes later I'll be like, I need something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said to planning these things in, isn't there? So, I'll even try. I tend to on a weekend plan my whole week roughly in terms of what my workouts are going to be and when they're going to be and who they're with, if they're with somebody. But also then every day I'll sort of check in with myself and say, right, okay, I'm going to have a good gap here. That's when I'm going to get my walk in. And if I'm struggling for time, then I'll get my snacks for the whole day ready, so they're just there and I can just go and grab them, because I think that's really important. So that's not necessarily a time saving thing. That's just being organized so that in the moment, like you said, you're not just grabbing a bag of crisps or some biscuits or something that's, you know, not necessarily going to serve you very well in the moment, because you've got a bit of a plan in place. I think that's really key to kind of success. Cool. So I always like to ask people, is there kind of a particular person? I mean, you've mentioned a few things already, but is there any particular person or book or a system that you want to mention that you've not touched on already that's really helped you with all this stuff?
No, I like. There's lots of things I've done, but I'd say the thing that keeps me going is having a 90% plan for a week, knowing roughly what I'm going to be doing when. So I know I'm going to work out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and there's a reason for that blurb for that, and then a Friday, and then a Saturday or Sunday. And I can tell you what my workout's like. It's hit Monday and Tuesday. Then Wednesday, I go for a social swim with a lovely bunch of ladies at 6 o'clock in the river. But then also on the Wednesday night, I play five-a-side at 9 o'clock. So I have a ridiculous day. Yeah. So Thursday is a fully inked in rest day. Yeah. Friday is sort of mobilization, and then at the weekend I'll do a swim on a Saturday or Sunday, depending on family activity. Yeah. And then I just restart, and that's it. So I get 5 very active moments within a week. Yeah. But then I also know what I'm going to eat, because I know how long it takes me to cook it. And I don't think I've told anyone this, but I actually have a pizza for breakfast on a Monday. Make it from scratch. Like Joe Wicks has a breakfast pizza after a workout. Yeah. So I have a pizza with an egg on it every Monday, made from fresh, in about half an hour.
Wow. So have you got a dough ready to go, or do you get that ready on the weekend?
It's a yogurt dough. It's a yogurt dough. So it's half and half yogurt, self-raising flour, bit bicarbonate, whichever one it is, and then a bit of salt. Give it 10 minutes, whack it in a hot oven, crisps off, put your topping on. And the secret to the dough is, if you go to Sainsbury's, there's like a Lancashire yogurt company, and it's quite an airy yogurt, and it just makes the most amazing flatbread pizza base. So have that once a week, and then lots of, and that's why I really like the Joe Wicks, because there's lots of food to pick from, and they're quite simple recipes, and you can do most of them in about 20 minutes. So it's where I am. I wouldn't say time poor, time committed. A lot of the places. Yeah. Actually, knowing how long something takes to cook or warm up is really important to making sure I can be as optimal as I can throughout my day.
Yeah, I think that sort of, it's worth having an explore and trying to find ways of doing things, and spending some time on making dishes, finding ideas, trying a few new things, because once you've got those basics in place, you can just fall back on them and rely on them. It's easy. It doesn't become an effort then, does it?
No, and it's someone's a bit slower learning them, but I've always been someone that cooked a bit. So I think I've probably got about 30 things I can cook without really thinking about it. And I know which are higher in carbs and which are higher. You obviously know, because if you cook and you learn how to cook, you actually have really good. I think it's one of the things that's kept me healthy is being able to cook and not a heater-upper. I could definitely cook. I cook whatever I want. Yeah. And part of that is I can eat how I like it, but also you can tweak things. So you can change up the oils, take out the oil, change the carb, change the protein. Yeah. I mean, still enjoy your food, but also exercise and keep a reasonable balance to your size.
Yes. Yeah. And I like what you're saying about the food thing. I think as we get older as well, then we're less scared of cooking and creating dishes and manipulating dishes. Like you say, you can replace your carbs, you can replace your veggies with other things, and just try different things out. I remember as a young man, I was pathetic at cooking, and it would be the same 5 dishes over and over again, which leads you then to get bored and to go and get an easy option and get a takeaway, or buy something in that's already done. So I think it's great that you've got that little bank inside of you to just fall back on and create and use as you go along.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got what are your sort of daily non-negotiables around, preserving? We've talked about quite a lot of the things that you do, but are there like set non-negotiables every single day that relate to your sort of health and your energy that you always deliver on?
Yeah, so I always try and get my 10,000 steps even at the weekend, much to my wife's despair sometimes, because I'm just going up for 20 minutes. But I find, especially at the weekend, I can be 10 o'clock and I've not really moved my body, and I'm getting a bit itchy pants, and like I just need to go out and get some exercise. So getting out. I also the food I eat is really important. It's not something that I will completely let go of. It's good. So I will make sure that it's something I want to eat, and I'm not putting too much junk in, because I think that affects me as well. So that is another one. Get some time with family, because this is supposed to be about being a dad. It's actually spending some time with my family and my son. So especially at bedtimes, if I'm doing bedtime, the phone goes away and we'll just play games, read books, do some drawing and stuff. And I find actually embracing the analog world, which we're keeping him in, is good for me. So recently I learned to do the Rubik's Cube over the last 3 weeks at bedtime. Sit there for 20 minutes just messing with the Rubik's Cube, and doing that consistently over 3 weeks. I can now do a Rubik's Cube.
Okay, cool.
But it's that having that analog distraction, and I've actually found I felt better for it. So I'm now looking for other things to become a bit of a fiddler to have in my hands, because it's easy to have your phone and check for stuff. So it's one of my non-negotiables is actually putting the phone away and breaking it.
Yeah, I think that's a really important one, isn't it?
Yeah, breaking that digital. A word I heard recently, which has really sort of stuck out for me, was digital soothing. And something I'm pretty guilty. Like, I found while working, if I'm doing something I don't like, I will pull my phone out to go and digitally soothe.
Yeah.
So definitely put that aside. And actually, I found it with music as well, that I was soothing to. Soothing is, I don't know if I'm happy with the terminology, but I was listening to music to offset the tasks I really wasn't enjoying. But then I think I was missing something from those tasks.
Yeah.
Like a real engagement in them. So I've actually reduced some of the background music I have when I'm working. So reducing that, the noise, and I just being more in moments. So if I'm working on one, like the things I must have are those things, but I'm actually also working at being more in one thing at one point.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I think at the moment we are bombarded from all angles, aren't we? There's notifications pinging off left, right, and center. I find that exactly the same thing. I'll be working on something, and then I'll think, oh, that thing that I need to include in this was in a message, so I'll just quickly go and grab that from my phone. I pick my phone up, and then I'm in TikTok, not in the message that I went for, and then I find myself 10 minutes later still scrolling and watching something and laughing at something when I've just pulled myself away from the task in hand. So I think there's a lot to be said for working in blocks of time, using a timer, whatever it is that you need to do, putting the phone in a different room completely, switching it off, all those sorts of things. Really important to just to put that to the side.
Cool.
And especially with your son as well. How old is he?
He's coming up to 9, so he's playing games and stuff, but I play it with him at the moment because the digital world's mad.
Yeah,
like even things that you think are quite innocuous. So he's into Roblox at the moment, but there's very much a dark side to it.
Yeah,
and actually, if you look at, there's a lot of horror inflected games, and it's quite sharp. It looks quite innocent on the face of it, but what I actually found is the subcultures behind it. That when he wants to look for a game on YouTube, the game itself is a bit like, okay, it's nothing too toxic about it, but all the stuff behind it then becomes different levels of toxicity. And so that digital wellness is something that I'm keen on for myself, but also to help my son understand the lessons of. And I always explain to him why he can't, if we think something is too old for him, we'll say, this is not the right age for you because the language they're using is too old for you, or there's an extra level of scariness that you don't understand, so I'm not going to let you do it. And he's quite understanding of it, actually, but we treat him we explain it properly and clearly to him, because as a parent, I am not teaching my son to do things because an adult's told you. I want him to question stuff. So if he questions it, good.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation about it. But don't just do things because people tell you to do things. You can have more agency than that. So it's a challenge, but it's a nice challenge to have, I find.
It is, yeah. I'm going through the exact same experience with my 10-year-old daughter, who uses Roblox as well, and she meets her friends on there, and they run around and do things together on there. So I've actually, from seeing your post on LinkedIn a while back, I joined with my own account, and we run some obbies together, which is hilarious because I'm absolutely rubbish. So she finds that very amusing, obviously. But I think we need to, like you've said, we need to demonstrate how to treat technology and how to use it and how to respect it and have boundaries with it, but also understand what it is they're actually in and doing, so that we can help advise them and guide them and keep it safe, don't we?
Yeah. And like, on a side note, if I was listening to a podcast called Offline, so it's an American podcast by, I think it's John Favreau. He does Pod Save the USA, so all that ecosystem he won, and there was a report. They were talking about the report that was leaked in the States or TikTok around what they know about how it affects children. And they were talking about how they know it promotes looking at the screen and not making eye contact with humans. And it makes people more, there is lots to it. And I strongly recommend, if you are interested in what TikTok can do to your children, go away and have a listen. It's a 15-minute segment where they talk about what TikTok know about what TikTok does to people's brains.
Yeah.
And if I was listening to it, and it felt very similar to a lot of the conversations about what people knew about cigarettes when cigarettes were a much more unknown entity. And it felt like a conversation like that.
Yeah. It's really important, I think, for us as parents, because our children are entering a very different world, aren't they, where they are going to be using these tools, frequently, more so than we ever did. So we need to understand the implications of that so that they're best educated going into it, don't we?
Yeah.
So and I love that as a non-negotiable with putting the phone down, to be present for those moments. Because really, when you think about it, especially as a working dad, the amount of time that you actually have per day one-on-one with our kids is really small. There's nursery, schools, after school clubs, sporting activities, we're at work, there's things we're also trying to do for ourselves outside of that. So actually we get teeny tiny little bits of time, don't we? So I think it's really important to just ditch all the other distractions and go all in on that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we kind of wrap up, is there anything that you wanted to kind of bring up or ask me, or any other subject you wanted to kind of head into before we finish?
One of the things I've never mastered is drinking enough water.
Okay.
Is it something that what should I be like? Like I drink quite a bit of coffee, but I've never actually hit that pattern of drinking enough water in a day. Is it really that important for me?
Yes. So it's very important because it helps on a cellular level with many, many functions in the body. It also helps regulate, obviously, our body temperature, but also the temperature of our brain. And if we're dehydrated or not as well hydrated as we can be, the function of our brain and the way in which we can use it is impaired slightly. So we're not at our best if we're not hydrated sufficiently. And one of the things, I have quite a lot of conversations at the moment about hydration, because one of the things about hydration is that it's not just about water, it's about the levels of those salts that we also get in our body as well. And it's important to get them both right in a balance. And if you think about the sort of 5 essential salts that we need and water, if you just drink loads of water and you don't necessarily replace those salts, then, or your food's only bringing you up to here, you get out of balance anyway. So a lot of people will say, report, well, I'm drinking lots of water, but it's not really doing the thing you said it would do. And so I think it's really important to get that balance right and actually look at things that have got electrolytes in them, so that you are actually hydrating alongside your hydration, you're taking in some of those essential salts. So I think it's really important. I'm a big believer in hydrating before caffeinating of a day. So I think in the morning, ideally, once you're up and about, your first sort of big hit of caffeine shouldn't really be very quick. It shouldn't be straight away. You should give yourself an hour, maybe longer, before
So actually, that's one of the lessons I learned at this company I work for was I can't remember what it stops the production of. But it's one of the important chemicals, isn't it? So at least 60 to 90 minutes, I don't have caffeine for in the morning, even at the weekend. I don't. It's not wake up, have a coffee. It's wait 90 minutes.
Well, and when you wake up, so part of what happens is there's a lot of hormones happening through the body, and balance of hormones throughout the day, and some related specifically to sleep. So in the morning, you actually get quite a big rise in cortisol, which is a stress hormone, but you need that. You need that in order to function and to wake. It's waking you up basically and getting you ready for the day. And so, yes, it suppresses that a little bit, but also it can cause a little bit of an energy crash later on in the day. And so if you then pair that with someone who's maybe not having a high protein breakfast, which we talked about that you do, but if you're caffeinating heavily first thing in the morning, then you're having a heavy carb breakfast, something that's easy for your body to digest and transport, you'll soon have a crash of energy. And it will affect you quite drastically. And then at the other end of the day, caffeine obviously can affect you in terms of that quality of sleep and being able to go off to sleep. So it has a kind of half-life of about 6 hours. So if you have a really strong coffee that's got 120, 140 milligrams of caffeine in it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when you're putting your head on your pillow at 10 o'clock, it's still circulating at half of its strength. So it can affect your sleep. So, if you like the taste of a coffee or a tea in the evening, maybe go for a decaf version in an evening. But yeah, hydration is really important. So some of the things I work with my clients on is making it visible, making it easy. So we talked a little bit earlier about making your environment easy so that it works for you. So maybe you have a bottle on your desk where you work, and you have a bottle in the kitchen, or you take a bottle with you when you're going out and about, so that there's this cue, this trigger to always be sipping at water, because that's the easiest way to do it. And some people will just get up in the morning and just go get a glass, fill it up with water, and just down the lot, and then go about their normal daily routine, because at least then they've started with that good hydration.
Awesome, cool. I'll give some of that a go. Thank you very much.
But it's certainly worth looking at electrolytes as well, because there's a lot of good quality brands out there. I use an electrolyte every day myself, and they're just a flavored powder that you pop into water. It mixes instantly. It's a nice flavor, and I know that I'm getting those salts as well as hydrating. It actually encourages me to drink a little bit more, because it's really nice to drink rather than just plain old water. Cool. No, it's a good question. A lot of people need to know about that, because you just sort of take it for granted, really, and maybe a lot of people survive the day caffeinating away through the day and don't really ever put any water in their system. Fab. Look, we've gone sailing into 42 minutes. It's been fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. If people want to kind of get in contact with you or interested in what you're working on at the moment, where can they find you, and what are you doing?
So at the moment, best place to find me is on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, there are regular updates. There's a post out every day. Some of them will help you be more productive. Some of them will just tell you about my journey, and others are a bit of a blend. Next week, I'm actually running a pop-up how to LinkedIn Live like this. So I've done, as you can probably attest, I've done 25 at least of these this year, and I've learned a lot of lessons, and I know lots of people want to do this as well. So actually next week I'm running a pop-up, so I'm going to be leading up to it, and it's going to be next Friday live. You can come and join, and I will teach you and give you some ideas on how you can do this yourself. And then in the new year, I'm actually running a productivity sprint based on teaching you all the lessons that I've learned around being super productive. And that's for anyone that is in a small business running a team that needs to create a project. So if you're launching a website in the new year, you've got a new product, there's something you want to do, effectively in 9 weeks, I will help you build the habits and process for you to deliver the thing you need. And it's really exciting. Lots of people doing it at the moment. And it's just lovely to see people bring to life the things they need for their business, especially parents that have started out on a business journey themselves. They know the subject, but they don't necessarily know how to build the thing. That's where I come in, and that's why I help people be amazing and achieve the things they want to achieve.
Fantastic. Sounds really good. Thank you. And for anyone who's interested in what I'm up to, I'm actually developing something to run before Christmas, which is going to be an anti-diet course So I'm up in umbrage at all of the bloody fitness trainers out there that say, come and join me for a Santa shred or a Christmas crash diet or get ready for Christmas so that you can then just eat your weight back over Christmas. So I'm going to work something in for the next 5 weeks, which is going to be more of a bit of a reset and just getting your habits right and not worrying about scale weight or not worrying about dieting for Christmas. So I'm going to be launching that hopefully next week. So look out for that if you're up in umbrage too about that kind of thing. And you can see some of my client results on that link right there to see the sort of work that I do. Thank you so much, Michael. This has been an absolutely brilliant chat. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Bye.